Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dream Design Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Lee Westervelt, and today I have a fabulous guest. Ella Isakov is joining us. She is a yoga practitioner as well as an energy healer, and she is an amazing human, beautiful energy. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So welcome, Ella, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so elated to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for rolling with the punches of the technology issues that we have here sometimes. But we're back and we're better than ever, right? So tell the listeners a little bit kind of about how you got started. Obviously, none of us ever, when we're building our dream business, the reason it's our dream business is because it's exactly calibrated and created specifically for us. And unfortunately, we're not yet in the dimension where we get that coming out of school, right? There's no welcome to, designing your dream and how you want to live your life. We're kind of just like sent to wherever we fit in the cog, the wheel of motion as a cog. So tell us a little bit about kind of where you started and how you got to do what you're doing now.
Sure. You're right. We are not taught any of this. We're kind of conditioned to take this step and then this step and this step. And then next thing you know, we're in our life. It's like, hey, is this my life? What? I am a medical intuitive and a trauma intuitive, and I still teach yoga on the side because I love it. My life, everything from fitness instructor to a school teacher to a yoga teacher, I feel like, even no matter how different the things in your life seem, if you reflect back to where you are now, everything kind of was needed for you to move through to get you to where you are. I actually see the parts where I had divine intervention for the things that showed up in my life and the choices I made. I also see how even the healers I went to they were opening up the gate to what was already inside me. So did I imagine I'd be here 2 years ago? No. Do I feel more at home than I've ever felt in my life? Yes. I mean, I help people in Indonesia, in US, I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto. I help people all over the world deal with stress, heal childhood trauma, and also past life trauma, to deal with serious health ailments, and just deal with we're especially these current times, and deal with what's going on in the current times and how can we manage and still stay connected to who we are. So did I build it block by block? No. Did it all come together the way it was meant to? Yes.
I love that. And it's so true. None of us ever really sets out to be what we end up being, but that's kind of what the journey is all about, right? And so I definitely resonate with you on that. And I just think it's been, you can look at the last 2 years. Everybody refers to the last 2 years. First, we called it the pandemic. Now we're calling it the last 2 years. Because it's kind of like an era. And if anything, it's like a separation between the old life and the old paradigm and the new one, right? Like it's a space. Really what it is a space. It's the delineation between then and now. And a lot of people are emerging and breaking through into this new energy and realizing that, and I'm going to ask you a question about this in a second, but realizing that there is no instead of, there's only and. And so recognizing that, a lot of the things that we were taught and the things that we thought were true, it's not that they're now not true. It's that we have such a perspective on them that we didn't have before, right? So like we're like the fish in the fish tank and it's like, oh, this is my habitat. And then you're like, wait a second, there's a whole house outside of this tank, right? And so I know for me, being Jewish and being a person who has a deep reverence for God, and then kind of like having the kind of spiritual breakthroughs that I had and really having to reconcile where I came from, but also just, where I'm taking my children, right? Because like there's this whole idea of this foundational religion and then you get into the spirituality and you're like, where is my footing? Because if this is who I was, then how do I now show up as this person? And I'm just curious because the intuitive part of me is pulling this out of you. Do you have a story that's similar to that where you feel like you kind of had to make that, transition for yourself? And if so, what do you like for listeners who are trying to figure out, how do I reconcile who I was before the 2 years and who I am now?
I tell you, my story might be a little different because I went through the dark night of the soul. I don't know if you know what that is. And when you go through the dark night of the soul, you never really come out how you were before. you, it's a whole journey of rising up, and you do rise up. There's the only way is up once you're in the dark night of the soul. It's like the phoenix rising, and it's so fascinating. People that have come out of the dark night of the soul, they've dug deeper. That's why most healers have had really traumatic, wild lives, because they've had, everything's been so heavy their whole life that they've had to dig deeper. They've dealt, like, I talk to angels, I connect to the guides, I get energy, I connect to people's physical energy. What? Like, so for me, it's all been a rising up from a really low point. But to add to something for you is, somebody says something really remarkable about the beginning of these 2 years is that people were teaching yogas, people that were doing mala beads, people that were doing whatever, chanting. It was almost like a preparatory, because as soon as this 2 years started, it's almost like something clicked, and then we had to show up. We had to show up for the people. And then for me, it was like, I wasn't thinking that, but then all of a sudden this came up and that came up, and they gave me some gifts, and then the gifts flourished within me to beyond things that I already had within me. So trauma intuitive is what I am naturally. There wasn't a gift that was given to me, although we all have these gifts naturally. They're just expanded with the help of others. So we were asked to step in. It's probably a bit of your story as well. You stepped up for the masses. You stepped up to help the collective. Do I reflect on who I was before and after? No, but I'm profoundly grateful for all the parts of Ella, all the stages of Ella. I wouldn't, even the most heartbreaking moments, I would not change a single thing. The wisdom that I have now, the gifts that I have now, I wouldn't have had if I didn't move through all those stages of Ella.
So well said. Absolutely. And I guess this is my moment, listeners, to just invite you that, if you're starting to question things, if you're starting to feel like you have a larger perspective, that is a very real guidance inside of you. That is not a betrayal. That is not blasphemy. That is not giving up on anything. That is you recognizing you, right? So, there is a divinity within all of us. And no matter how you package that, if we were created by something, then that something is all we can be created from, right? Because that's what made us. So that divinity inside of you is just as much of a guide inside of you as it is in those books that they tell you to read, as it is in those holy people that they tell you to listen to, and so recognizing that is a really important part of this. So thank you for that. So you mentioned about medical medium. Is that what you said, medical medium or medical?
I'm a medical intuitive.
Okay. So I actually have had an experience with this. I have a son who is 2.5, and my son was born with hypotonia. So he has low muscle tone. He's 2.5. He doesn't walk. He doesn't talk. He really doesn't sit up yet. And one of the things that I was told to do was to go find a medical medium. And, it wasn't something that I was skeptical of. I knew that it was real, but I didn't understand what it would be like. And one of the things that happened, the woman, she was lovely. And one of the things that happened was, she got on the phone with me and she got real quiet and she said, I'm going to go through you. And she told me that my energy was so powerful that I was overshadowing his energy, that I had to let her in. Like I had covered him and she couldn't get to him. And the reason I'm telling you guys this story is because I want to preface this with my story of how amazing this is, so that when she comes in and talks about her work, you already have my stamp of approval that this is a thing. Like I want you to hear this amazing story. So this woman comes in and she tells me that my son has a blockage in one of his ears. Now, what's really interesting is that he had earwax in that ear, but it was black earwax. And there was no way that she would know that. There was no way that she would know that. And she also knew that he had just eaten. She knew what he had eaten. she knew he had a diaper rash. Like, it was really profound. And, you know, as we move through and get out of these 2 years, the separation of these 2 years, a lot of the things that used to be fairy tales, that used to be just stories, we're realizing those things are real.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the more that we accept those things, the more that those things can work for us. So I say all that to preface so that when she comes on and says this, you already have my story, that this is a thing.
Mm.
So with medical intuition, obviously, you know, there's a connection between the mind and the body, right? And there's like a connection between the spirit and the body. So I would love for you to explain kind of, let me see if I can say this correctly for them, how much more connected we are than what we might think. Like, can you kind of put that into perspective, and like how it is that you are able to tap into someone's essential anatomy from, you know, long distances?
Well, what a great question. First, I want to preface that all medical intuitives, we actually don't use medical medium anymore. So that's interesting that you went by that. So all medical intuitives bring something different. Some talk to angels and tell you your supplements and tell you what food you should eat and what food you shouldn't eat. My strand of medical intuitive is I do get into your physical energy, but I don't diagnose. I don't diagnose any ailments. I go to kind of, I guess, behind what's the root of the ailment. Usually it's trauma from this lifetime or past lifetimes. Usually it's something that happened. And so I clear the emotion, the energetic grasping to the emotions and belief systems from this lifetime and past lifetimes. So I deal with all the organs and also the body systems. I clear things from the tissues and the blood and the cells, and then the brain work as well. So, and then it can get even deeper with energetic implants that we have attached to us, and then even more dark entities. So it can get quite complex but this is so, first of all, we are so multi-layered. So how do I get into people's energy body? Energy knows no time and space. So I do have my tools. So I move in and then I can feel where their aches and whatever they're feeling. And then when I hold the organs, I can feel what emotions that they're storing, what belief systems about themselves that they're storing. And a lot of the patterns that we've been carrying, especially people that have serious ailments, a lot of it's to do with the patterns that they've been carrying this lifetime and also repetitively lifetimes. This can get pretty deep, Amy. I don't know how deep you want to take this, but this can get super profound. Also, even something like manifestation, like money and prosperity. People have no idea all the belief systems from this lifetime, past lifetimes that have kept them under, literally weighted down in beyond just a cap, beyond just a glass ceiling. So I also help people with prosperity and manifestation and health and stress. But it's beyond just what you see. And I can give you some examples, but I can't give you what happens every time because it's different every time for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. But it's interesting to me because I feel like people have no problem, like, oh, the two of them are connecting over a channel on StreamYard and they can see each other, and she's in Canada. They're in different countries and they're having a conversation right now in front of us. But at the same time, when you say, oh, well, I can connect to her energetically without all this, they're like, well, how? Well, why is this so easy to understand? And yet, you take it to a different medium. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah. But we don't believe that we have that channel ability, that we have that connection. Yeah. And again, I think that this is something that we're coming into more and more as time goes on. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that that's a great example of that. So when you do this work and you tap into someone energetically, and I apologize for getting the word wrong before. Yeah. I think it's just alliteration. Like, I'm just really big on the same letter. It's just easier to remember.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. So when you do this work, tell us a little bit about some of the transformation that can happen as a result, and not anything specific unless you want to. Some of the transformations that can happen as a result of this work.
Um, First and foremost, lightness of your being. And I know it's like, what? How is that helping your help? How is that helping your manifestation? How is that helping whatever? We carry so much, so many layers. So we clasp to emotions, belief systems, this and last. I have authors that have felt stuck for years. They have come for a few sessions and they feel inspired and they write and write and write. I deal also with powerful people. I deal with, I don't know how far we want to take this, but I deal with also star seeds that have come through as human form, but they've struggled being in human form. So I've helped them ground and help them feel more at home on planet Earth. And then, yes, I do have health issues. People that are clients that can't even get out of bed. Some clients, it takes longer. What we don't realize, and this is where it gets a little bit more complex, there is actually often resistance, both mental and emotional resistance to letting go. So some clients will release within a few sessions and they move forward, and some it takes longer. Because we get stuck, and so we're dealing with the subconscious. So I'm literally shifting your subconscious mind. People with concussions, I help them with concussions, but then I go even beyond the root of why they had all these accidents. It's very energetic reasons as well. There's no limit to this work, and it can take a few sessions. I have some clients that come every week, some clients that come once a month, and some clients just come whenever they need it. And sometimes they come for no reason. They're perfectly fine, but then they just come because I've heard about you and I wanted to try it. But then they start to notice shifts in their life. First, like subtle, like oh, I don't know, I don't feel anything different. And then some of the integration takes even 2-3 months for the integration, and all of a sudden they notice that they're responding different, noticing that their thoughts have shifted, noticing how, what often people say also is like, did you work on my husband that was in the house because he's acting really different? And no, because when your vibration shifts, so do the people around you. I can't work on anyone without their permission. But the astounding, remarkable results. Well, I don't like to say results, because I'd like to say we're always evolving. I'm still doing my work every day as well. Is mind-blowing. And I also want to add that the past life category comes through a lot. And here's the thing, Amy, we've been kind of taught that we want to see it. We want to see the proof. We want to see the results. It's almost like, even if you're not a researcher, we don't trust, we don't believe unless we see it. But I think this is where you said, I hope things are changing. I really hope that they are changing, because so many beautiful things are transforming. And as I help other people with their clearing their subconscious, it's actually helping their family and their community. So when we heal ourselves, we're going vibrationally beyond, even to as far as healing the planet. This poor planet that's taken a beating. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one thing you said that I think, my work in neurolinguistic programming and things like that, I've learned and I've noticed in a lot of people, one thing you said is that it's hard, people get stuck. But to take that even deeper, audience, sometimes we don't want to change. And we don't know we don't want to change. We don't know. Like, I know for me, and this is me really opening up here, but I had a big problem with jealousy. And with my jealousy came a lot of cattiness, like gossipy stuff, like kind of talking to my girlfriends about like, oh, so-and-so this and so-and-so that. And that was me for a long time. And there was a time when I didn't want to give that up. Like, I wanted to be that person. I didn't want the results of it. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like that, heaven forbid, someone said something and Amy Lee said this. I didn't like that. But I wasn't ready to change. And so a lot of times people don't realize there's something underlying in that subconscious. I kind of think of it like you're running, but there's this one little string that your ego is just pulling and it's holding you back. And so recognizing what that is, and like you said, it could be from another lifetime. I mean, there are literally things that we prescribe to and fears we have that were passed down in our DNA. They did an experiment or some kind of a test, what do you call it? Study, that's the word, of Aboriginal women, and how Aboriginal women had an incredible amount of PCOS or PCOS because they had been so traumatized that their wombs just historically shriveled up and said, I'm not going to bring a child into this world. I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. And that DNA was passed on. So now you have women who have beautiful lives and beautiful abundance, and their bodies are still stuck in that, that fight or flight place. So what you're saying resonates tremendously.
Mm-hmm. I also want to add, when you're saying we resist change, oftentimes, even especially when we get to the trauma healing of the inner child, I get an age, I go 7 years old. What happened at 7? And they tell me, but I don't really need to know what happened. Is it that inner child? Usually it's like loneliness or not feeling understood if they're little kids. When they're 14 and 15, which is another common age, between 12 and 14 is also another common range. But generally between 5 and 7 is where there's an inner child that's terrified. So the resistance comes not, we think just of us now as we are now, but there's so many other factors that are contributing. Our worthiness, our shame that's holding us back, and the trauma. And we have I think it's changing now, but how we view trauma. Trauma could be, you were alone for 5 minutes in the dark and you were traumatized. Like, trauma is not just abuse. Trauma is the happiest homes the kids can be felt super traumatized in some way or another. So when we're dealing with an inner child that's young, that's still hurting, it takes time, and there's a lot of resistance. And here's the thing, our psyche and our ego are super powerful. And if you had things in childhood, it served you to protect you. The other thing is, if you've had a lot of stuff happen to you at a young age where you had to dissociate, you were probably already connecting to the other side. Especially if it was under 7 years old, you were already probably talking to angels and spirits. And then after 7, bang, 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 banged out of us. It's, the conditioning beliefs that we don't even think about that, but we all have the capacity. Just like you said, you're coming out as, psychic? Yeah, we all have this within us. Like,
Claircognizant and clairaudient, I guess.
We all have some of those. Mine is a lot of seeing, so I see clear visions of past lives. Hearing, but my hearing comes through thoughts, and I talk to 4 angels. So sometimes I have to okay, and then I have to call them one by one because I can't always hear when they're all talking at the same time. So we all you can profoundly develop these gifts, and they can serve you in your healing, in your passion. And guess what? You're going to be living in your purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what honestly has healed me so much is being a mother, because obviously we both believe in the quantum reality. And I truly believe that my daughter, she's 9 now, is me all over again. And I don't mean that in oh, she's just like me. I mean, energetically, I am watching my childhood from the perspective of a parent who, is emotionally available to be a parent. And some of the things she says, she tells me that she's from another dimension and that she chose me to be her mom. And, she tells me that she calls it a mega shift, and she was born in Swan Lake, and she has all these stories. And another parent might be like, oh, sure, honey. Okay. But I recognize, there was a couple weeks ago, I was really down one day, and she just came up to me and she was like, Mom, you need to do something that's going to make your energy better, because that's what you need to do, is raise your vibration. And I'm looking at her, and I'm literally like, the universe just showed up in a human being to give me a message. And maybe what if this child was conceived and had all so she could, I mean, I'm not saying this is true, but what if it was that just to provide that one moment, just to have that one butterfly effect moment that maybe made the difference. You just don't know. And so it's really important to me and my husband that we're raising conscious children. My kids are like, did you William manifested that my box didn't come from Amazon, and that's the kind of fighting that my kids do. Like they're like, they're energetic beings, and I really think that for me has been a tremendous healing point. um,
Well, the kids born now are not, they're higher already.
yeah.
They're not of the same realm that we were when we were born. Even if we have our age gap, the children that are being born now are on a different frequency
Yeah, absolutely.
because the things need to shift.
Mhm.
So they are coming in.
Yeah, to help us. I mean, to
Yeah.
help us, and to also to be, the other half of the iron that needs to sharpen us. We got it from our parents, and
Yeah.
we were broken down, and then now we're being built back up by redemption through childbearing, I believe.
I love how you just said that. We were
Yeah.
broken down and then we're being built. I love that. That was beautiful.
Yeah, because think about it. Your kids, they think of the world of you. Like,
Yeah.
Mom, you're amazing. Like, I mean, it's just it's an unconditional love, unlike any other. And for us, these
Yeah.
healers who've been through trauma and narcissistic abuse and all these things,
Mm.
this is the redemption. This is this incredible being loves you no matter what, no matter who you are. And that's just I think, a really powerful place to be. So
Amazing.
okay, so we want to talk about how people can get a hold of you, how they can work with you. So
Okay.
tell us some stuff.
Sure. Uh, Everything's on my site, so you have information and a bunch of testimonials, and it's ellaisakov.com. Oh, there it is. I'm mostly on Instagram, Ella Isakov Yoga, and I post a lot of things to help. And what I even do on Instagram is I run meditations with a little bit of energy as well. So I give, there's a lot. I like to over deliver.
It's a healer
Because
thing. I totally get it. You're like, I'm not so much worried about charging you as I'm worried about you having the transformation, because the transformation is the currency for us. Let's be real.
you know, I've got to use this for the greater good. I've got this gift. But then, yes, I do see one-on-one, and I also do webinars. So webinars have been a hit, and I've got 6 more coming up in March. And each Wednesday, there are 10 to 12 energetic activations, and each one is themed. So for prosperity and money, one is for family, so much family stuff and trauma. I actually decided to put a whole theme for shame, because every single private client, we're unpacking shame from past lifetimes, this lifetime, you name it. And it's the lowest vibration emotion, by the way. So we want to kick that to the curb as soon as possible.
Mhm.
So there's 6 themes for 6 weeks. I did one in the fall, and the next one starts March 16th for 6 Wednesdays, and it's a huge hit. And the beauty of that, because I have clients also in Germany, Indonesia, and the US, is that you get the recording. And that's the other thing. People are starting to understand that energy lives in recordings. Energy, before it's like, really, via Zoom? I don't have to be in person. I could do it on the phone. I do sessions on the phone with people that don't want to be seen because they're sick. And just for their own safety and feeling safe. So 6 webinars, 6 different themes. And then, of course, there's the one-on-one. And I've even added in a 30-minute session. Sometimes you just need a quick, just see what's wrong, whatever you need to do it, just like send me out, just kick me out of the, and so I've added in a bit of a 30-minute quickie as well.
Awesome. That's amazing. So many amazing, amazing ways to work with you. And it's been such an amazing conversation. I feel so elated and humbled to have you on the show. Do you have any last thoughts or anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, wherever you are in your life, just, this is what my wish for the world is: believe in yourself. Notice when you're doubting yourself. Notice when your thoughts, when your actions, and how you respond are coming from fear. Start to believe in yourself. Start to take the actions, one manageable step after another.
I love that. Oh my gosh, such words to live by. Thank you so much, Ella, for being here. You
Thank you.
have been such a pleasure. And guys, definitely check in with her, follow her, get into her energy. It's beautiful. So thank you for being here. And that will do it for this week on the Dream Design Podcast with Amy Lee. Until next week, when we have another fantastic guest, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, and may you be at peace. Namaste.